Hello, hello. Good morning. It is 8:15 on a Sunday morning, and I have been working down here since 5 o'clock this morning, and it's the third day in a row. I think it's because the mornings are getting lighter, and my head's gone, 5 o'clock, it's time to get up. But that's great because I seem to be getting a lot done. So anyway, I've come to show you how I made my envelope, similar to the tags that I had in my Within Your Reach journal. I didn't have time to tag it onto the end of the tag tutorial, but it is kind of the same process, so the techniques are the same. Now you will need some A4 paper, tea stained, or this is A5, depending on what size you want your envelope. So you'll just judge the size of your journal and the size you want your envelope to be. I have some Teabag paper. You'll need some permanent inks that are waterproof. You'll need some distress inks and some stamps and some glue. And I think that's pretty much it. Some watercolours if you want to watercolour. Now, in the video of the tags, I explained that I was using Teabag paper, and I did explain that by all means you can use tissue paper as long as you're not going to get it wet. Use a sepia colour maybe, or a cream or a beige, or even any colour to coordinate with the journal you're making. You can use vellum and tracing paper, but it will kind of warp and buckle under the water. But by all means, give it a try. Absolutely give it a try. I've had lots of questions about alternatives, and like I said in the video, you can use other stuff. Don't be worried about trying things out. Because that's, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But please do have a play and try different things with this. So I've already prepped a little bit because I didn't want you to have to wait while I use the sewing machine, and then I have to try and stick the videos together, and I'm not very good at that. So what I would do is I would cut out my piece of Teabag paper. I really like rustic and not straight edges. I like torn edges, so I'm not too precious about cutting and this perfectly straight. That's not something that's bothering me with these envelopes. I'm taking my piece of paper and just using that as a guide to what size I want my piece of Teabag paper. Okay, so your Teabag paper needs to be slightly smaller than the piece of paper you're using. Now, through trial and error, trying things out, seeing how it works, what I found out when I was making these is if you work straight onto your Teabag paper, it's great. It looks fantastic, but the water does warp this slightly and it goes a little bit out of shape, and when you try and sew it down, you're not going to be able to keep it flat, and you're going to get warps and things in your, which is fine, it looks great, but what I would suggest is you take it to your sewing machine and you sew it before you start work on it. So what I've done is I've cut my piece of Teabag paper. I've got, when you do your tea dyeing, do you ever occasionally get a couple of pieces that are stuck together and they just rip and it doesn't quite work out? Well, this is one of those for me. I don't like to throw it away, and I always make sure I use it somehow. But can you see this is where the two pieces got stuck together? So I've used that for this envelope because I think it'll look cool. And once I've stitched the Teabag paper down, I've just made a couple of folds. It's a little bit fiddly, but I've made a couple of folds where I think my envelope should be folded. Okay, so I've now got those fold lines as a bit of a guide where I'm going to stamp and everything to do this. So when I'm using stamps that I maybe haven't used before, I just have a little play and stamp them out on a piece of plain paper, and these are the stamps I'm going to be using today. So you can see where I've tried it in a single colour. I did try this a couple of other times, and I've realised this particular stamp is not great here, and I know I can use a rubber mat and it will probably stamp better, but that's kind of maybe not quite what I'm looking for on the envelope. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure that I'm going to use that one. But you can see what I've done is I've played around with the colour. So, you know, I've made, I don't know if you, hopefully you can see this. I've made the parasol blue. Her dress is mainly red, but with some little bit of green in there. I've done the bamboo in green with a little bit of red and orange. The other thing you'll notice whenever I do anything is I do have limited supplies. I don't have loads of stuff. I don't have tons and tons of stuff. I mean, this is my range of archival inks. This is all I have. And I've done so many projects with these. These tiny ones are just brilliant, brilliant value. So, you know, and I don't have a massive amount of stamps either. So you don't have to have tons and tons and tons of resources to do some of these things. You just have to have a play and see what you can come up with. So we've got our envelope. Now, obviously this is going to be the back of our envelope. So that's going to be this way up. This is going to be the front, and that's our flap. So what you need to think about, if you're using a plain pattern, that's fine, but if you're using images, you need to make sure you're stamping the right way. So I'm going to start by stamping the back of my envelope. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tuck these in so I can work on this area here. I'm going to grab my, I'm just wondering which way around to do this actually. Tell you what we're going to do, before we do the stamping, we'll do the inking. We'll do it that way round. So this is going to be the edge of our envelope. So, I mean, every time I do this, I do it in a different order. And there's no kind of right or wrong way of doing this. So I've done it both ways. I've done the inking and the stamping, and then I've inked it, and I've done the inking and then done the stamping. It has the same effect actually. It's no. Right, okay. So I want the ink reasonably heavy around the edge. I will be inking the edge again later, but I'll be using the ground espresso for that. If you've got creases on your tea bag paper, please do not worry about that, because as soon as you get it wet, everything's going to kind of change anyway. If you are using tissue paper, I would absolutely recommend you stick that under a tea towel and iron it, unless you want to wrinkle it up and have that effect. You might want it wrinkly. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. But I have to be really careful you don't rip it. I actually bought some, oh, what is it called? It begins with an A. Some tissue paper that's a really good quality, and it's kind of a natural colour. I might try that with this idea actually, and see how that works out, and I'll give you some feedback. What is the name of that tissue? It's kind of miles away, so I'm not going to go and grab it and try and tell you. Right, I'm not particularly worried about how I ink the envelope, but I do want it to have a bit of colour. So there we go, step one. Now I'm going to stamp it. So I'm going to go back to folding this in. So I'm going to work on the back of my envelope. This is the stamp set that I am using. I bought this from a local vintage shop. It was brand new and in the packet, but it was just literally a plastic packet. The stamps hadn't been used because the first time I tried to pull them off, they were kind of ridiculously hard. So I can't tell you where these come from, unfortunately. So what I've decided I'm going to do is I kind of like that for the front, because I'm not going to get much in the way of I'm not going to get everything in. Right, so the back, let's have a look. What am I going to put on the back? Just make sure that's the right way up. Now, you know, this lady is absolutely stunning, but I'm only going to get half of her. And I did my degree in photography, and cutting people's feet off is like, just can't do it, even if it's stamps. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the one that I said I wasn't going to use. There you go, never say never. Haha. Yeah, I'm going to use that. So there's, I don't know if you can see, there are one, is that a big rose? No, that looks, yeah, there's 1, 2, 3 larger flowers. There's lots of little flowers and there's quite a bit of green. So what I'm going to do is I am inking the entire stamp, and I'm going to make sure I get that bit, and hopefully it will print this time. I'm going to take, now I've inked it, you can actually see the detail a bit more, hopefully. Another one of the questions I was asked is, does it mess your inks up, putting one ink on top of another? Well, if you're using a waterproof permanent ink, no, it doesn't. You would not want to do this with any other inks, but you know, this is fine. And this is the Ranger inks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out the big flowers and I'm going to put those in red. I'm going to pick out some of the small flowers and I'm going to do those in orange. Like I said, limited colour palette I have. And I'm just going to pop a little bit of green on some of the other areas. Now, this may not stamp particularly well, but let's try. Okay. Oh, that's not too bad. Yeah, I like that. Now, do I want to do the same again? Yes, I think I do. So I'm just going to re-ink my pad. As quickly as I can, because obviously you're going to get bored. Some orange. And a bit of green. As long as you've got your base colour on your stamp, you're not going to have any kind of blank areas if you miss a bit of colour. Okay, so put this down, and I want a bit of an overlap, so that's fine. So that's the back of our envelope. That actually looks pretty awesome. I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to stamp that off on another sheet. Right, okay. So now I'm going to move on to the front. Now, I really do like this. Try and get it the right way up. That's the right way up. And sorry, I'm just going to lay these out to decide. I'm not sure if I want this on the front or not. Yeah, I think I'll have them. Like that. Yeah. Right, so I'm going to put these down. I'm not going to do them one at a time, actually, both together. Shall I? Try and get the birds the right way up. There we go. So again, in with my inks. And obviously, whatever you put on the top is going to be the colour that shows. So I've put the brown down. And what I'm going to do is I am going to make the lantern blue. And there's people out there probably going, all the ink you're wasting. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm going to do the tassel in red. I'm going to do these flowers in red. And I know this is brown, but I'm going to put a tiny bit of green in here and there. I'm going to do a little bit of green around the edge of that lantern as well. Okay, so now I'm going to do the birds. This time I'm going to do the flowers in orange. I'm going to highlight some of the birds with the red. And then I'm going to do a little bit of green around some of the tips and maybe around that part of the edge of that one. That moved very slightly around here. Can you see? Okay, that's that done. So now we have the flap. Okay, so that's this way up. Now I'm actually really liking this, so I think I'm going to use that, and I think possibly the fan. I'm not going to be able to get these on in one go, so I'm just going to ink up. What I'm going to do is just grab that and get the ink off the lantern. It's not really going to matter too much, but I'd rather just get rid of that. A little bit of red. This is a lot of fun actually. Lots of fun at 8:05 on a Sunday morning. Who doesn't like working early in the morning? The only thing is by 3 o'clock in the afternoon I'm kind of nodding off to sleep at my desk. And then I have some coffee and I get a bit of a second wind, so that's alright. Did I use the red or the orange? I think I used the red, didn't I? Just going to highlight a little bit of there. And I want this bit in green actually. Okay. So oh, I've got a little bit of ink on that. Got a line. That's okay. That's really not going to affect the envelope very much. And I'm going to do the fan, and I'm going to again give it a base colour, and then lots of blue on this. And I want this part in orange. And I want that part in red on the edge. Put that down. There we go. So now we have our printed envelope. So the next thing I'm going to do is apply a little bit of watercolour. Now what I'm not going to do on this one is add too much. All I want to do, really, the main thing I want to do is get some yellow in here. So I'm not going to bring my watercolours into shot because they are worse than they were last time. I'm going to take a bit of yellow ochre and just thinking about, I'm going to add a little bit around here. Oh, this is not even my paintbrush. I don't even know where this came from. It's probably one of my daughters. Okay. And then what I want is on the flap, just around the edges, I want some red. This is a rubbish paintbrush. The end is about to drop off. I just want some red around the edge of that flap. That's all I want there. And I think I might want a bit more. Okay, so sorry about turning this around, trying to get it right. This is where I want a little bit of blue and I want some green, I think. I want this really watery. So So I'm going blue up here. And then I want some green around here. I don't suppose you can guess the theme of my new project. That's going to be fine for me, so I'm going to give that a good spray. Cool. Now I'm going to dry it. I'm sorry about the noise. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn you off and start you again. I'll speak to you soon. Hi, I'm back. This is now all dry. What I did do is actually put a piece of bright yellow and some blue up there. It's actually not as bright as it looks on the camera. We've had some really kind of dreary weather here, so I've got all the lights on, so everything looks a bit funny. Tungsten light kind of gives a bit of a different colour effect. So you can hear, it just sounds awesome, doesn't it? Now what I do is I'm just going to tear carefully around the edge. And because I'm doing this on film, it's probably going to go horribly wrong. You know, I've explained before, as you all know, paper tears easier in one direction because of the grain of the paper. Oh, sorry. Any odd bits that you don't kind of like, you can pick off at the end. So I don't like that bit. That's a bit pointy. There we go. That's a bit better. And this is all kind of by eye. This is generally the way the paper tears the easiest, lengthways. And this is the way that it doesn't tear quite so nicely. The only thing I might have to do is tear a little bit more off that other end, because once we've got the envelope folded up, I need to have enough room for the flap to close nicely. I'm trying to stay in frame. I'm hoping I am. Yeah, cool. And obviously it's a little bit thicker down here because this is where there's that double thickness of stuck together tea stain paper. Okay, so we have now torn around our envelope, and now because we've got those fold lines, it's actually a bit easier to refold where we wanted it to go. Now, as you can see, I'm quite a bit out at the top here, so I am going to have to tear much closer to that. In actual fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. It's not going to be seen as much, obviously, because it's on the inside of the envelope. So it's, you know, the outside this is the edge that I'm really concerned with, and the sides. So you can see how it's going to take shape. I think they're really pretty. I do really like them. So just get the. Oh, that's green. Okay. I'm now going to use the ground espresso to go around the edge of this. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this will make it into the journal or not. I do really like how it's turned out, but I have more to make, so I may make others. I may keep this one. But when I make something, I don't know about you guys, but when I make something, I always make kind of a batch, I suppose. I always make a bit of a batch, so I've got a couple to choose from when it comes to putting all the ephemera and bits and pieces into the final journal. And what I do, I don't know about you again, I don't just work on the journal and then just work on the ephemera, because I have the concentration span of a goldfish. So I kind of have to, I have a vision of what I want in my head, and I have to kind of dip in and out to different parts of the project that I'm making. I just find that that's how I work, and I write a little organisation list at the beginning of a day, and I never ever stick to it in order. Okay, so we've now got our envelope. It just sounds lovely. Now, oh crikey, I'm going to try and attempt to use this Fabri-Tac to glue the edges down. Just get rid of this. Okay, so I'm just going to go down both sides. I always manage to do it. It would have been really easy to not get glue on my fingers, wouldn't it? Just folding over the edge. Okay. So what I'm now going to do is the bits that are showing, I'm going to ink again on the other side. Turn it over. Now obviously once that's in a journal it would have a paper clip on it, and once it's folded for long enough it will actually stay down. So that is how I made my Teabag envelopes. It's quite busy, isn't it? But I quite like it, it's very pretty. And I hope you will have a go and try out different things if you don't have the Teabag paper. So I might do another one without the watercolor or just the yellow, I think. So thanks for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. Oh, I am coming back maybe over the next few days to do the bead tutorial. So speak to you soon. Bye.